Hey friends, it's Sean from SGTReport.com and the SGT Report YouTube channel here, and I hope you're all having a wonderful end to your week. I have on the line my good friend Shepard Ambellas from Intellihub. Shep is an opinion journalist, analyst, and the founder and editor-in-chief of Intellihub News and Politics. He's also known for producing Shade the Motion Picture and appearing on Travel Channel's America Declassified. Shep is a regular contributor over at InfoWars as well. Shep, how are you?
I'm doing about as good as possible considering World War III is about to break out. How are you been, Sean?
I've been okay. It seems like it, doesn't it, man? Japan warns citizens to prepare for North Korean missile attack. And another, China to test new weapons, stage live fire drills in retaliation to U.S. THAAD deployment. The deployment of the THAAD anti-missile system in South Korea damages the regional strategic balance and stability. The Chinese side is resolutely opposed to this. They are just boiling us alive here with all of this fear-mongering. And why do you think it's happening now over North Korea? North Korea has been a pain in everybody's butt for as long as I can remember, Shep.
You know, I don't know if it's just the mentality of Donald Trump going in to the presidency, just approaching it differently. You know, he could just be thinking that, look, North Korea has been a thorn in everyone's side around the world for years, you know, decades now. And is someone finally going to do something about it? You know, or are they just going to keep provoking people? How much do we really know about North Korea? What have the powers that be, you know, wrote into our history books about North Korea? How do they really operate? You know, it appears the guy's basically insane over there, and he's flexing his muscles, and that all appears to be true. So is this just a maneuver that Trump's making, coming into the presidency with a different approach, saying, hey, look, why don't we finally put this guy in his place, or he needs to put up or shut up, or he needs to, you know, adhere to some of these requests of the international community and become, you know, more part of it and become more civilized. So it's an interesting thing to watch. Meanwhile, all these ships are headed all over the world. You know, I mean, we're seeing things go on everywhere. You got Senator John McCain, Senator Lindsey Graham. They're just kind of sitting around, basically, you know, loving it.
Well, they're Zionist warmongers, so yeah, they're probably tickled pink. But you know, the problem with this North Korea thing is it is really hurting the delicate balance geopolitically. Stock slump as Putin warns Korea's situation is deteriorating. So Russia's concerned about what's going on in North Korea. China's obviously concerned about it. And I don't know if you ever saw that Vice documentary, but Vice went in to North Korea, and it's a paper tiger.
On the way here, there's a big poster that says, "The way to peace is on the point of a bayonet."
I mean, that country is an absolute joke. The people are starving.
They want to show, oh, there's plenty of food. Food everywhere. And they're carefully laying out the food the whole time you're eating. And then as you're leaving, you notice they're pulling all the things they've just carefully laid into little tiny trays that they're carefully going to bring back and keep for the next day. And you're just sitting there by yourself, eating your matter, going, okay, I've come to crazy land.
The whole thing is an absolute paper tiger, and even in that most recent military parade, it looks like most of those rockets were props. They weren't actual fireable rockets. So you just really wonder what this is all about, Shep. At the end of the day, we have much bigger fish to fry, I think, than North Korea. We've got an economy that is ready to collapse. We've got a government that's ready to shut down because the debt ceiling has been reached. And we've got a U.S. dollar that is no longer being treated as the world's reserve currency by China and Russia that are now trading gold between themselves. I tell you what, maybe that's why this is all happening, Shep, because the dollar's days are numbered.
Well, you know, it's all coming to a head. I mean, they can only spend so much and print so much before it all collapses, you would think. I mean, maybe they can just keep it going. Who knows? But I mean, now they're talking about, you know, they want money for this wall and Mexico will pay later, which whatever. I mean, you could probably recoup that, you know, by imposing tariffs or some kind of policies, taxes, something like that, and recoup that money. But, you know, we're still spending. It almost seems like, you know, I thought Trump would come in. I'm not knocking him or anything because, I mean, this is all real complicated and surely it's going to take time. But you would think someone would come in and kind of manage the the funds for the corporation of the United States and say, look, like, how are we even going to spend a dollar? How are we even going to, contribute to all this stuff? We contribute more to the UN than any other country. I know he came out and said, hey, look, we need to get these other countries to pay their fair share as well. So that's like another step, toward a, better, it's just going to be a better outcome all around. But, how do they keep spending is what I'm looking at. And then you look at, like, okay, how much control does Trump really have? Because about the time that Trump took the presidency, and I was already thinking this before, but you just know they're not really going to let him exercise any control, because essentially the deep state, or basically everyone that's in government, every sitting congressman and senator, pretty much 99.5% of them or something, are pretty much part of the deep state. They're basically operatives that have been salted into the government, blackmailed, bought and paid for, bought off. And Democrat and Republican, they're still moving the same direction. You can still tell that although Trump's Republicans are still blocking him on a lot of things. We saw this with the healthcare issue. They're still getting nothing done. And then there was the whole Russian narrative. And as soon as Trump struck in Syria, after that alleged gas attack, whether it was real or not, who knows, basically, it gets the war drums beating. You see Senator John McCain he starts going crazy, and it's almost like Trump had to play ball with the deep state, because then all of a sudden that Russian narrative dropped. It seemed like basically they were going to wear out the whole Russian narrative, Sean,
Yeah.
to where it was just going to take him into, basically they were going to imprison him over it. I mean, it was going to just go on and on and on until they say, look, well, we got evidence that, you guys were colluding with the Russians or whatever. And then it would have, changed the whole outcome of everything. So they dropped that narrative. It's almost like he has to play ball with the deep state. Now he's in there. How much are they going to let him do? How involved is he in this? What do you think, Sean?
Well, I wonder if he is part of the deep state. I mean, there's people on, our side of the alt media aisle that have been saying that we're saying during the election, you people are being duped. Anybody supporting this guy is being duped. He is the deep state. He is the establishment. People like author Richard Sauter, people like Chris Duane. And what we were trying to do is just report on the things he was saying. And I want to give some examples of that. I've got an article here from Politico about his latest flip-flops. So what he was saying when he was running for president, he said things like this on the Paris Climate Agreement. He said, we're going to cancel the Paris Climate Agreement. Then, this past November on the 22nd, he said, I have an open mind to it. As it pertains to man-made climate change, he said in March last year, I'm not a great believer in man-made climate change. Then in November, he said, I think there is some connectivity, something.
How much do you think his advisors, for instance, okay, so say Trump's his own guy, and say we're just going to use logic to, we'll just go with that he's not really with the deep state, okay, for this example. And he's his own man. He gets in, he becomes president. Like I said, all these people are salted into the government, pretty much everyone's deep state. So deep state analysts come out of the woodwork, advisors, they start talking with them, they start briefing them, look, here's the numbers on this, here's the numbers on that. It's like with that, if that gas attack was staged that in Syria over there, Senator McCain flew up there, prior to that attack. He could have set something up, not saying he did or not. Say it was a false flag set up by the deep state. McCain was talking about right away, oh, I talked to the president, and he was so troubled that they gassed those kids, and and it's almost like they find these little things that's going to get the president on board, and they're going around, and I feel like it's possible he's his own person. And why would they attack him so heavily? If this was really some elaborate plan, it would have to be really elaborate, because they really did, Clinton really did spend all that money. and they lost. It was really a battle. So, did he come into the presidency? They didn't really let him maneuver. He has to play ball now. He realizes how it works. Do they really have it overran that much, Sean, to where they can literally just sway him like a puppet because he has no room to move? Because he can say, I want to do this, and they'll just say, nope, because of this, this, and this. Or they'll have one of these judges come out of the woodwork and just say, nope, you can't even do an executive order now. I mean, where were these judges when Obama was doing illegal executive order after executive order?
Right. Yeah, I think your question's a good one, and I think that's one of the reasons that I was trying to remain really objective about Trump when he was running. And I know that I was taking a lot of heat for appearing to be pro-Trump when truly all I was trying to do is say, look, these are the good things he says he will do. Listen to these things, and if he does these things, he will be a much, much better president for our country than Hillary Clinton. And now he's in, and he's flip-flopping, and he's not doing even half of those things, maybe less than half of those things, maybe a fraction of those things, and it's a real problem because I agree with you. If this was all an elaborate plan, then it was the conspiracy of a generation because the mainstream media was completely aligned against him from top to bottom. So you're right about that. And that's one of the things that made me think that perhaps he was for real.
Yeah, you're right about those attacks with the media. I mean, we could clearly see people like Jake Tapper, Anderson Cooper, these diehard operatives, were genuinely mad over this. So I would assume Trump's his own person. I would assume they're just not letting him maneuver, which is now making it appear like, he's switching things up and, they're probably swaying him. I mean, they're advising him now.
But let's just put a name to it. Let's put a couple names to it because when you say they're not letting him maneuver. He's the one that picked Jared Kushner to whisper in his ear.
Well, there you go. I mean, there is a couple, things like that. But like all in all, I'm looking at like things all the way around, like the intelligence community. Right. It's obvious, like the CIA's overran. It's obvious the FBI is overran. Any of these agencies and people, the Department of Justice, all of these people still have like these Obama operatives in there, even though people don't want to believe that, which were in there prior to that, because essentially they're just CIA operatives that are all salted up into everything. So, and then keep in mind the whole Congress and Senate, I really don't think they have minds of their own. So, somehow the word goes around and they're all probably blackmailed up and, bought and paid for. So, somehow the word gets around and essentially it's like there really is no left-right paradigm like Alex Jones talks about, because you can clearly see that they're all basically making the same moves, and, it does make you wonder if Trump's part of it, but I just feel like, he's tried, I mean, and they've just offered their resistance because all in all, if you try to do things, I mean, if it's to the point to where you're doing executive orders and judges are like blocking you and it's just becoming a whole like fiasco with everything, I mean, they're just going to wear them out. Mm-hmm. It's just a way to wear them out.
Well, it's definitely a disappointment to any of us that were hoping to see a huge sea change, right? He promised to drain the swamp, and we all hoped that he would start to target some of these folks that are truly, that exemplified the swamp when Obama was in, and that includes people like Hillary Clinton, John Podesta, Barack Obama. There are people in high positions of power on the left that should be tried for their crimes. But, even as it pertains to Hillary, back to this Politico article on locking her up, he said, and I quote, this was in October of last year, he said, "If I win, I'm going to instruct my attorney general to get a special prosecutor to look into your situation." This was during their debate, talking specifically to Hillary. He said, "There has never been so many lies, so much exception. There has never been anything like it. We will have a special prosecutor." And he continued on to talk about her 33,000 emails and all of that stuff. And then in November, he said, and I quote, "I don't want to hurt the Clintons. I really don't. It's just not something I feel very strongly about," end quote. So I really do have to give some credence and some kudos to our prescient friends in the alt media that were saying that we were being duped by Trump, because maybe we were. You know, I hope I'm wrong, but I tell you what, man, he's marching us straight over the cliff to World War III, and I don't care if you're on the right or the left. That should offend your sensibilities as a free-thinking human being that does not want to get nuked.
Yeah, and I hear they're gonna open the draft back up and whatnot. So it's just, more of the same old stuff. But it does make me wonder just how much the deep state plays into this. I mean, do they really have is it basically like this free running military industrial complex, and the president has no power unless you're part of the CIA faction? I mean, is it like how much power did someone like Kennedy have, or because he had the power, they took him out. So, I still question some of these things. But either way, like you said, I mean, it's not looking good.
Yeah, it's all just very troubling, and I know we're being very topical here in this discussion, guys, but that's because things are changing so darn quickly that it's really impossible to keep up. Shep, you probably recall when you got into the business of alt media 6, 7, 8 years ago, we didn't get this much change in a week, sometimes in a month. What we're seeing now, the things that are happening on a day-to-day basis, it's almost too much to keep up on, isn't it?
Yeah, literally they're ramping it up. Chaos, order out of chaos, or whatever. Now it's disorder out of chaos, disorder and chaos. On every front, I think they're just trying to generate a trail in the media, a path. They can lay backstories. They can keep infighting going. They can keep narratives going, and this is worldwide, and they can use the media to manipulate everything worldwide. And by keeping so much information out there and so much information coming, there's no way to disseminate what's real and what's fake. And then now that they have a fake news narrative, the fact that people are saying this is fake news and that's fake news just opens a whole other door for more things to be labeled conspiracy, fake news, and to add doubt in people's minds on certain subjects. So it's basically like they've just created this whole montage of chaos worldwide that no one can figure out, because like analysts are even having a hard time. Like you and me are sitting here talking back and forth, and we're pretty well versed in all this, and we're questioning, is Trump part of the new world order, or is the deep state just pushing him around? They're making it really hard to grasp their next moves and what's going on now. And all in all, everything's moving toward, a one world government and globalism. I do believe that, because you can see, well, look at North Korea. I mean, they're one of the last little pockets of resistance basically left for the globalists. They need to get some of these little problems out of the way, and then it just paves the way for them to, lay down even more regulations, more laws, whatnot.
Well, I think they're straw men. I honestly think this North Korea thing is just a straw man to create conflict, to create more chaos. I mean, you hit the nail on the head. Their whole mantra is to create order out of chaos, and they do an excellent job creating chaos, just like their father, right? The father of lies, right? The father of chaos. Mm-hmm. And that really bridges into something I want to talk about here, which is spiritual warfare. And I think it is alive and well. I want to talk about Ronald Bernard, the Dutch banker, who is famously now blown the whistle on the elite that control the planet. He was a powerful banker, and he was invited to some very, very horrible things. He was invited to take part in a child sacrifice, and that's ultimately what woke him up. And I think that the spiritual warfare has probably never been more clear to those of us paying attention, Shep. I mean, even as it pertains to Jared Kushner, his family bought 666 Fifth Avenue, that building, in 2007, and they paid an unheard of amount of money for it. Well, twice above, almost double market value to buy 666 Fifth Avenue. Now, I don't know anything about Jared Kushner. I don't know what lies in his heart. I know he's Jewish, an Orthodox Jew, I believe. But beyond that, I really don't know what lies in his heart. But why would they care so much about getting that piece of property? Now, Ronald Bernard would tell us it's because the people at the very top are literally Luciferians. He explains that these people are not atheists, and most of them really do believe in Lucifer as a real god in deity. And for anybody who hasn't seen that interview, just Google Ronald Bernard, Dutch banker, and you can watch that absolutely incredible interview. Were you able to watch that at all, Shep?
No, I wasn't, but that just reiterates, or you're just reiterating, reality. I mean, it's been going on for hundreds of years, thousands of years. These people are absolutely satanic, and it almost sounds crazy when you talk about it. We're sitting here talking about it right now, and it sounds like we're conspiracy theorists. But if you really do the research, and it's out there, you come to find out that these people really are worshiping Satan. They're worshiping these dark entities, and they're conducting all these strange, rituals. And why are they doing this? And what's the secret behind it? Why would they do that? Is it just something they do? Is there more to it? So it's very interesting stuff. These people are dark, sick people.
Yeah, and the why they would do it, evidently, according to Ronald Bernard, is because they hate humanity, they hate creation, they loathe us. That was one of the things he said that really resonated with me, because Lucifer hates us, he hates humanity, he hates God's creation, he hates anything that's pure, which is why they do the things they do to children, which is why they take part, which is why they're willing to sacrifice children to this deity. It is literally the stuff of nightmares. And I think, Shep, at the end of the day, if it's hard, if it's difficult, if it's nearly impossible to wake up our friends, neighbors, and colleagues to something as simple as how a central bank operates, to something as simple as the conspiracy to create the Federal Reserve System, which has indebted generations to their fiat Ponzi scheme. If it's impossible to wake up our friends to something as simple as that, Shep, how in the world are we going to wake up our friends and our neighbors to the fact that these people, many of them at the tippy top, are Luciferians? I mean, that sounds crazy, but it's true.
Yeah, absolutely. And since you asked the question, I'll answer it. We need the support of all of the listeners and the readers and whatnot, and we just need to keep on getting this information out, because as we're getting more and more of the truth out in the alternative media, in the independent media and whatnot, they're putting more and more propaganda out on their end. Obama went in and basically put in provisions that they can go ahead and just do full-blown propaganda wars. So, you don't even know which news agency is owned by the CIA now. I would assume CNN literally is a CIA front company. And if it's not, they can sue me. So we'll find out. How many of these other companies, I heard Fox News is changing direction now. So, are they becoming bought and paid for now? 100%. I mean, they probably were anyways, but now which narrative are they going to push? So how much of this counter propaganda is going to be out there to actually, counter our truth that's going out?
Yeah. Hey, you mentioned they can distribute propaganda now to us, and you're spot on. I think it's part of the Smith-Mundt Act, which they disabled, which disallowed the United States government from disseminating propaganda to its own people, right? Which is, what is that? Psychological warfare. That's what that is. We used to do it to different nations, of course, still do it to different nations in times of war and in times of peace. And now this government can do it to its own people, to the American people. So we don't even know some of these news stories, some of these false flag shootings, some of these things that happen. We don't even know if they're real, because the government has given itself license to lie to its own people. And I think that is the very definition of tyranny. Certainly it is the dismantling of what once was a republic by and for the people. And feel free to comment on that, Shep, but I want to leave people with a piece of good news, a really great idea that you can carry out to enhance the lives of others here in a second. But your thoughts on the ability of this government to propagandize to us?
Well, it's experimentation on the human population. So, something like the Sandy Hook shooting, most likely was some kind of full-scale FEMA drill, FEMA exercise, and they wanted to test the general public's response in real time. They even wanted to test YouTubers' response, conspiracy theorists' response, the alternative media's response, and they're into this, and they're into wargaming scenarios, grabbing more data points, and basically, ultimately, they're garnering all the data so that they can wage a full-scale war against the populace. They're basically we're engaged in a war, a full-scale information war with the powers that be, but they haven't really fully activated everything yet, Sean. And what they're doing right now is just compiling all this data, and they're gaming everything out, and they're seeing how people would react to every single situation. So when it comes time, basically their supercomputers, their analysts, everything will know exactly how to respond to every situation to keep the population perfectly in check.
Yeah, their supercomputers are modeling everything, and at this point, they're just fine-tuning their Orwellian totalitarian system, this New World Order system, I think, which will be rolled out in earnest, and I think it's going to lead to a lot of bloodshed. I hope I'm wrong. I hope there's a way to take this thing back, Shep, but realistically, our chances are looking thinner and thinner. I did want to just leave everybody with this really great idea that I discovered over at a website called attn.com. This came up on my feed and decided to read it. It said, what this customer gave instead of a tip. All right, so we just went through tax season. Paying this government taxes so that they can build more bombs to drop on brown people is just about the most horrible thing in the world that I can imagine. So here's what somebody did for a server at a restaurant. So this guy got his bill, and he wrote on his credit card tab where it says tip, he put 0, and he wrote taxation is theft. And then in an envelope, he gave the waitress 30%, and he wrote on the envelope, this is not a tip. This is a personal gift and not subject to federal or state income taxes. And I love that. I'm going to start doing that because I think it's just a wonderful way to really make somebody appreciate that tip that you're giving them at a restaurant or wherever even more. And you're actually enlightening them with a little bit of information, because you can give gifts to people. I believe it's up to $15,000 per person, tax-free. So I love that. This is not a tip. This is a personal gift and not subject to federal or state income taxes. We got to start doing that, Shep.
That's awesome, Sean. I like it.
All right, Shep. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Can you shout out the website for people?
Intellihub.com, Intellihub News and Politics. Check it out. I'm Shepard Ambellas. Go there for your daily news.
Absolutely. And after you visit Shep at Intellihub, guys, check us out at sgtreport.com. You know how much we appreciate you, and we thank you for your support. Check us out over at thephaser.com and thelibertymill.com as well. And thank you so much for tuning in. Without you, there would be no us. And we are the alt media, the real news, despite what Google claims. Shep, thanks so much.
Thanks, Sean.
All right, guys, thank you. Have a wonderful week ahead. Bye-bye.
So they just kind of give up and they just kind of accept what they're being told. And this problem is worse than ever. That's what school has produced. People just drift from, one authority to another. And I think that's really, really unfortunate. And that's a problem that real education could address.